I am here with my most disappointing reads of 2022. I'm coming out with like end of year content in February. Better late than never? I don't know. But I would just still do it. I did a best of video. I did a worst of video. But this is disappointing. So this isn't the worst books that I read. Like none of these, I don't think. Let me see. Some of them are, but not a lot of them are like below a 3-star. A lot of them are like 2 or 3 stars, but they're ones that I had high expectations for. They're ones that maybe other people really enjoyed that I found really disappointing. They're ones that I just like, I didn't feel like, you know, lived up to the hype or weren't as good as I anticipated them to be. They were disappointing. So the first one that I have is Lavazona. This is one that I was super excited for because this cover. My problem with this was just that, and I'm going straight off memory. I don't have my laptop here for the first time ever. I am going straight off memory and gut feelings with these. So I read this one about a year ago. I read this like last March or something, I want to say. And it just disappointed me because the concept sounded really, really, really cool. And I was super excited to learn about some magic systems or some customs that I'm obviously unaware of and not used to. So I was really excited to see this. And it just disappointed me because it's about a magic school, essentially, which I didn't know from the jump. It's not really in the synopsis, and that's not something that I normally gravitate towards. So honestly, despite how beautiful the cover is, I don't know if this is one that I would have picked up had I known it was about a magic school like that. Secondly, within this magic school, there's this sport they play. I forget what it's called. It's not soccer, it's not football, but kind of like a mix of those two, I feel like, if I'm remembering the way that they played correctly. The book focuses so much on that, like way more than it needed to, and it just didn't really add anything to the story for me. There were just like these elements, you know, dropped in that I wasn't expecting from the story, and I don't know. It was just disappointing. The project. Who wasn't disappointed by this? That's what I thought. This was not like mystery thriller to me. This was hard-hitting contemporary. And I expected a mystery, I expected a thriller because that's what it's marketed as. And I didn't get that. You don't get that at all with this. It's 100% just a hard-hitting, really sad YA contemporary. And I don't really read those anymore. Very, very rarely do I read those types of stories anymore. Is it just me or did it get really blue? Got really blue in here all of a sudden. That is very weird. Because normally my house is like extra orangey. So this isn't something I would have picked up had I known. See, a lot of these are disappointing because I'm not being told these things that I specifically don't reach for anymore. Even magical systems like with lavazona, that's like something that I don't pick up anymore because I cannot get Harry Potter out of my head. So it's like the second you say magic school, I'm like, oh, magic school. Like there's so much association there. It's like you can't disassociate. You know what I mean? So yeah, the project, it's just something that I wouldn't have picked up because it's something that I don't really pick up anymore. But I expected way more mystery. I expected way more of a thrill. I was listening to it and I was like really into it, and I was like, ooh, like it's about a cult. So I was like, oh, this guy, like this cult leader, so creepy, like what's gonna happen? This is so intense. And then it's just like turns into a hard-hitting contemporary, and I was sitting there like, so what part of this was like even like a mystery or like a thriller? Ultimately, none of it. Next, Under the Whispering Door. See, I never read House on the Cerulean Sea, so I didn't have like high expectations for Under the Whispering Door because of that. The only other TJ Klune that I've read is The Extraordinaries, and I think I gave that like 3 stars. So I didn't have high expectations because of that. I just felt like this sounded so beautiful and magical, and it's a queer story, which I always get behind. And the synopsis, the cover, everything about it just seemed like it was going to be so good, and this just fully flopped for me. This was the last book that I read in 2021. This was the last book that I read, and it was like 2 stars, I think. It was boring. The synopsis is very misleading. The synopsis makes it seem like he goes to this kind of like in-between purgatory type situation, and that he meets somebody, the Reaper, or not the Reaper. Is he called a Reaper? Anyways, he meets this guy, Hugo, who is supposed to like kind of lead him into the afterlife or whatever. He's called Ferryman, that's what he's called. And then they kind of hit it off, and the synopsis acts like they go on this like grand adventure or something. Like the synopsis makes it seem like he finds life again, and I was like, oh, like that sounds so heartwarming and so sweet. And that kind of all happens, but minus the like adventure, minus the like fun part. I definitely still am going to and want to pick up House in the Cerulean Sea, just because I've heard such amazing things, but this one is definitely a flop for me personally. Let's remember, these are all opinions. It's my opinion. Next is Survive the Night. I don't even know if I need to say anything because I don't know a single person that wasn't disappointed by this. It was bad. It was toxic. Men, these old ass men. My bad. I don't even know how old Riley Sager is. Like, not that old, I think. But regardless, these men writing these like young women, it needs to stop. Like, it just needs to stop because they don't do it right. And they always go with like this, oh, she's manic or like whatever, and it's so sexist. And man, this was just bad. And that ending, like, if you know, you know, but like, next, Mexican Gothic. This was just a 3-star for me. It was not bad, but it was not as good as I feel like everybody kept making it out to be. And I don't know if that hyped up my expectations. The cover is stunning. What I'm learning is the covers are what disappoints me. Because the covers are so beautiful, and then the story just is like not so beautiful. It was what it says. It did what it said it was gonna do. The synopsis is not misleading. It just was not what I needed it to be. The gore was really interesting to me. I loved the main character. I'm forgetting her name. I read this about a year ago. I loved her. I absolutely loved her as a character. But just the story itself, again, it's just one of those ones where it's like, it felt a little flat. I expected the writing to be a little bit more beautiful. That sounds really mean, but like when I pick up Gothic literature, there's just a element to the prose that I am expecting. I'm expecting kind of a more lyrical writing style. Even if it's obviously a modern writer, obviously writing these Gothic stories, I still expect the Gothic element to come out in the writing style. A good example of this for me would be A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is a story that just came out last year, I believe, 2020 or 2021. 2021, I want to say. I could be very wrong though. One of those 2 years. Came out recently, but it feels like a classic. You read it and the writing is just so lyrical, so beautiful, has so much depth, and it adds to that Gothic eeriness that you're expecting when you pick up a Gothic book. And Mexican Gothic didn't do that for me. It did not do that for me, and it's literally called Mexican Gothic, and it just didn't have that Gothic element that I really needed. It definitely, the themes were Gothic, the gore and the eeriness was kind of there, but just the writing style itself didn't captivate me the way that I was expecting, honestly. It just wasn't all there for me. Every value break. Another one that I feel like similar to Survive the Night, the main thriller author men this last year, it's like they gave up. Every value break was sad. Similar actually to Survive the Night, it again was from the perspective of a woman, and again kind of went with the whole like, are you crazy though kind of thing. I just didn't like it. Again, the male perspective, or male author writing from a female perspective, I just feel like it needs to stop. And I talk about this a lot in my domestic reading blog, which I'll leave up above. I literally talk about this so much because it's a book that I read for that blog. So you can go check that out. I'm not going to bore you with like repetitive stuff. Similarly, actually, the next one is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. And this is another one I read for that blog. So I'm not going to go on for too much about it since I do talk about, I have like a whole like hour-long blog, like 45-minute blog or something, talking about these books. This is one that I was really disappointed in because it was so hyped up. And I said in that video, like, I don't know if it was hyped up just because it was a book of the month book, and so then it becomes more popular. But I thought it was kind of boring and really predictable. And even if you take out predictability and whatnot, because I feel like we all knew what was coming, it's literally called The Wife Upstairs, it still just wasn't anything super special to me. But I had it so hyped up just because it was such a popular book last year, or the year before even. I had such high expectations for You've Reached Sam. It sounded so beautiful, but it just didn't give me the depth and the feeling and the character development that I needed to actually feel the way that I was meant to feel about these characters. I felt like it could have gone a little bit deeper. It was relatively surface level. I've seen a lot of people talk about this where they feel like it also was really kind of just a little bit boring and didn't have as much depth as you would expect it to. But then a lot of people say that at the end they ended up like crying or getting emotional or feeling some type of way about it. And I agree that the end was stunning. I think it's a beautiful exploration on grief, but I don't know. It didn't make me cry or anything. And I cry at everything. So I don't know. It just wasn't everything that I thought that it would be. I would definitely be interested in picking up other things from him just because this did have a lot of potential. It just wasn't everything that I needed it to be. I think I gave this a 3-star though. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't amazing. Then I have Normal People. I was dodging your bullets. Because that's how you dodge a bullet. Yeah, I know I'm gonna get killed for this, but I did not like Normal People at all. I thought that it was very subpar. I even watched the TV show after just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Because sometimes I feel like if there's an adaptation, maybe it'll help you like connect better. But even the TV show, I was like, oh, this is just okay. Like, this isn't something that I would like freak out about. It didn't make me feel the type of things that it seems like it made everybody else feel. So that kind of sucks, because it seemed like, I don't know, it seems like everybody else like really enjoyed this on such a deep level, and they felt like so deep for these characters and their story and their journey, because this follows them over the course of like 5 years or something like that, maybe even longer actually. But I didn't connect with them in that way, and it's not that I couldn't relate, because there were a lot of things that they said or did that I have also been through, or experiences that I've literally like almost exactly had, and I still didn't feel any type of way towards them. So I don't know, I think maybe the writing style wasn't for me, because with the characters and the story, I should have connected to it on that deep level, but I just didn't. I wanted to be a part of the hype. I wanted to be a part of the fan group, but it just wasn't for me, and that's okay. And then the last one I read because of TikTok, and I remember when this was huge on BookTube, and even just like in life, like at the stores and stuff. I remember this was like everywhere when it first came out a long time ago. And that is We Were Liars. It like popped off again and became like one of the most like top selling YA books all over again. So I decided to finally pick it up because I never read it back when it was like really popular originally. And I didn't like it. I predicted it from the jump. I grew up not grew up, I was already pretty grown when that came out, but I had read a lot of YA books that came out in that time period, and they all were relatively similar and relatively predictable and had the same writing style, and they were very copy-paste. Like that John Green sort of era right there, they were all pretty copy-paste, to be honest. All the characters kind of seem the same, all the stories even kind of seem the same, all the troubles kind of seem the same. So I don't know if it's just because I was used to that writing style and I was able to kind of be like, oh, I bet this is it. Just because I like remember those stories so well. But from like the jump, I'm not even kidding, I was like, oh, I bet this is gonna be the big twist. So then when that thing happened, or when that, you know, that came into the light, it didn't have the emotional impact on me as I feel like it did people that weren't expecting it. You know what I mean? Like if you're not expecting a big twist and then it happens, you're obviously gonna be like, oh my god, like that's crazy, like whatever. But if the whole time you've been like, oh, this is definitely it, then when it happens, you're just gonna be like, cool. It kind of sucks. Besides just the predictability element for me, just again, it just felt really copy-paste. It was really basic to me. It felt about the same as every other book in that period. I get why it's popular again. Very heartwarming, sad. That's about as much as I can say about it though. I am a little confused why it's so popular again, but book talk does its thing right now. So it is what it is. That is everything. That is all my most disappointing reads of 2021. Let me know what you guys think, or maybe what, you know, if you had any books that you read this last year that you were like, just didn't do it for me the way that I thought that it would. I hope that you guys have a great day or night, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!